Well, that mission I was the flight leader.
What year was it?
1945.
And what month?
It was, that's why I wanted the date on it. February, I think it was.
And what airplane were you in?
P-47. Yeah, the Germans had broken through, and the Patton was pulled back, and so we were supporting General Patton. And
The Third Army?
No, Third Army. Yeah, he was coming on the Germans on the south flank of the breakthrough. So we were hitting them up from the south side.
So this was after the Battle of the Bulge?
No, it's during the Battle of Bulge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So it was winter.
Yeah, it was winter time. There was snow on the ground.
And you were flight lead?
Yeah, I was a flight lead, and I was contacted by the forward air controller, and he said, "I got a target. Got 4 trucks." He described them, and I could say He saw me. Yeah, he said that you're in your 1 o'clock position. So where I was coming, I was over the American lines. I didn't know exactly where he was, but he described where the grounds where the trucks were coming from. They had come out of the woods through a field, and then they were heading toward a road. They were on a road, in fact, but that road started up the hill, going toward where the Germans were attacking the American forces on the south side. And these 4 trucks were they were operating on charcoal, so they weren't going very fast, but they were lined up in string, you know. So they signed the tie. They said that they want to knock them out. So this is what was running through my head at the time. I said, hey, if I go this way, I got to make 4 passes. They'll have 4 shots at me, and if I go this way, they'll have 1 shot at me. That's what I did. So I came around where they had the road that they had come on, and I really came up that road behind them. They didn't see me. They would just reach the trees, though. These all like our spruce trees on each side of the road. So my pass was, I said I'm 1 pass, and I fired a squirt at him. You know, I squirted. I held the trigger down enough to run a fire through the 4 trucks. I knew where they were in the trees, and they didn't come out the other side. I know.
And what kind of bullets were these?
My 50 caliber.
And you had
8 machine guns.
8 machine guns, 4 on each wing?
Yeah. And when I broke away, there was a field on the right side of those trees, and there was a field on the left side. Well, the one on the left side was a wider field, and it was on a sloping hill. And I said, so I made my pass, and they were at the east side of that field, going up the hill in an angle to support their troops that was over here, if you will, to the west.
Mm-hmm.
So they were moving from east to west, and they didn't come out. But as I broke off, I held the trigger down. I held the trigger down long enough to knock all 4 of them out. I know I knocked them all out, but nothing came out there. But as I broke off, and after I pulled out, I was real low because it was uphill, and I pulled off, and I was in a 90-degree bank going across this field, heading toward the trees and back over the American lines. See,
this was a left turn.
A left turn. I went from southeast to northwest,
mm-hmm.
And then when I broke off, then I was heading back toward our lines. See, but I was turning in the field, and I was right maybe 50 feet off the ground when I pulled out. And I said, I thought they were, that was been a safer run for me than to pull up, because I figured they were up. I didn't know they were that close to the field, but they were on the edge of the field on the north side. So when I'm in a 90-degree bank heading toward the south, heading toward the American forces, which is to my left, I'm like this, and they put a round through my ammo door, and the rod that locks the ammo door on my down wing, my left wing, which was close to the ground. When the round went through, it cut the rod, and the door opened up, and it was like a speed brake. All of a sudden there was that sticking up, because when it opened up like that, in the 90-degree bank, it caught the ammo when the door opened, and the ammo stopped the door like 90 degrees to the wing.
So what happened to you?
It flipped me right upside down, just like a snap of your fingers. So I'm sitting, I'm flying the thing, what happened? Zoom, and I know it was instantaneous. I said that like I saw the snow was close to that ceiling, to seem that close to me. So
and how fast were you
through my
going?
canopy, I was doing about 300.
300 miles an hour?
Yeah, it was the firing speed. So when I fired I didn't have full throttle on. I had 95% or so.
So what did you think?
Well, what did I think? I said, when I got hit like that, I said I knew, my thought was I was heading toward the trees upside down, and I couldn't see the trees. I could see all the snow was over my, I said I was knocked upside down, just like that. So I couldn't see the trees, so I just pushed forward on the stick.
So that was negative G's?
Yeah. The only time I did an outside loop in the P-47.
Wow.
So I went up to about 800 feet upside down, and as I got up there, I was high enough. I said, I'm high enough to jump out if I have to. But I was in a turn all the time. I made this pulling up like that. I missed the trees. And that was my first concern, is that when I got knocked up, when the panel opened up, it flipped me upside down, and I was heading toward the trees at treetop height, if you will. So I would have clipped the trees if I didn't push forward on the stick. So I pushed forward on the stick and cleared the trees. And as I cleared the trees, I kept going like this until I got up about 800 feet, and then I rolled it right side up into and headed back over the lines.
How many seconds did that take?
Oh, it was probably 20 seconds. You know.
You must have had a few thoughts.
You know, the adrenaline was running. I know it happened like, bing. It's like it happened a lot faster than I talked the story about.
Had you ever trained for that type of scenario?
No. That was one you didn't train for.
What did you do when you got back?
Oh, well, when I got up over the lines, and my wingman joined me up, and he said that I could see it. There was a belt of ammo holding my panel up 90 degrees to the wing.
So you had a big speed brake out on the left wing open?
All the time, yeah. So I slowed down and I said, well, I want to see if I can slow the thing down. So I did that. I got it down to I could fly 160. I said, if 160, I could fly it back to the base and fly it right onto the ground and then throttle off. So I knew I could make it back to the base, see.
And how far away was the base?
About 40 miles.
What were the weather conditions?
Oh, it was cloudy, but it wasn't that weather. The weather, no, it was high clouds.
So you flew back to the base. What was the name
Well,
of
no,
your
what
base?
happened is a guy joined me. He pulled up on my wing, and he saw that the ammo belt was holding the door in that position. So I said, well, we'll go back and fly by Luxembourg, we were over Luxembourg, and all of a sudden the belt broke. Now the panel went, instead of being up like that, it was on the aileron. The panel was all
flipped over on it.
it was hinged at the back side,
Mm-hmm.
and the rod that locked the panel was on the right over the main spar. It missed the round missed the main spar though, but it cut the rod, and the rod then with the speed I was doing, the lift on the wing pulled that door open. The airflow across it, you know. So all of a sudden, instead of being lifting, it flipped me upside down, just like snapping your fingers. And I'm flying along in a 90-degree turn and pulling G's to get off out of the. Here's the trees up here, and I'm down here, and they were shooting downhill at me, and they hit the bottom wing and flipped me upside down. And there's like the wall is there. It was like the trees were there too, that close.
So when your wingman joined up with you, he saw the situation, and you flew back to the base.
Yeah. And but on the way back, the ammo belt broke, and then the door was flapping on the aileron. So I slowed it down to 160. It didn't stall out.
It stayed in one position then.
So I said, yeah. So I said, I can, no problem. I said, I can fly it. So I flew it back that way and flew it right down the ground at 160. And as soon as my wheels touched, I throttled off.
Wow.
And
you're here to tell us.
Taxied in. It wasn't banging on the aileron. At high speed, it disturbed the airflow. But the panel was still. It was a 4x8
door.
Door. There's a big door on that wing. It was 4 foot, or it was 8 foot long. It covered all the ammo bay, which is outboard of the guns.
How many rounds total did the plane hold?
I think we loaded 325 rounds per gun.
Wow. So that was like over 1,200 rounds.
When you touch the trigger, if you touch the trigger, you fired 5 rounds. If you just like that. If you held it down anywhere a long time, you'd soon run out of ammo. But that's what I did. On the pass, I held the trigger down, and I pulled out, firing into the trees where the trucks were. And I was going along that way they were in the road. I was lined up behind them, right behind them.
So the guys that shot you were up on the hill.
Yeah,
they weren't down in the trucks.
They were up in the
top of the valley.
On the side of the field. The field was on a hillside, and it was all snow. Because I went upside down, all I saw was snow upside down. I was looking at the canopy, and that was awful clean snow that I was looking at there. I was probably, when I was upside down, I was less than, I would say I was probably about 35 feet off the ground. My wing didn't hit the ground though when I flipped upside down, because I was in a turn and above the ground and below the tree line. Now, imagine the trees. The trees probably were 30 feet tall along the edge of the field, and I was below the tree line when I basically in line with the tree line. But I was close to the ground.
So the elevation of that part of Luxembourg was probably what?
That was a field. Yeah, it wasn't a rough field. It was a smooth field.
What would you say the overall elevation of that area was?
Oh, it probably was 1,500 feet.
1,500 feet.
There was mountains there. There were mountains there, and where American forces were was up a hill on the top of the hill, Bastogne.
So it was near
There was
Bastogne?
a city there. It was west of where I was. I was east of Bastogne, actually east and southeast of them.
And what was the name of the airfield that you came back to land at?
82.
A-82?
82, yeah. I think of it. I have to look at my book.
So they didn't have like
The book is there on the table.
they didn't have airfield names. They just had like numbers.
Yeah, there were numbers, yeah.
And
It was at Etain.
Etain, France.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for telling us that story. I'm gonna
Oh.
say cheerio.